Good morning. This is Steve Waterhouse. Welcome to How High-Performing Dealers Hire Top Salespeople and, quite honestly, do it time after time. My name's Steve Waterhouse. I'm the president of Predictive Results. We are a PI Worldwide member firm, which means we are part of the Predictive Index Worldwide family of consultants. We have consultants literally around the world who partner together to help our clients do a better job of hiring the right people and managing them more effectively. Through this program, I have you all muted, but the chat box is open, so please put any questions in there. I've muted you just so we don't have to worry about background noise and those kinds of things. I will open the lines at the end for any questions. And again, you can always feel free to contact us anytime. I'll give you the contact information as we go. One of the things that is so important is to recognize why we're here this morning. You know, what is the issue? And the issue quite simply is, why do we have this discrepancy in the people we hire? If you look at your sales team and you look at your top 25%, and you look at your bottom 25%, you will typically find that your top 25% outsells your bottom 25% by 300 to 500% or more. Now, that's kind of an interesting problem because when you hired these people, how many of them did you expect to be in the bottom 25% when you hired them? Well, I've asked that to dealers all over the country, and they all say the same thing. None of them. They all thought they were going to be winners. And quite honestly, in my career of hiring salespeople for hundreds of companies, I used to think the same thing. I mean, every person I picked, I thought that was going to be a winner. And now we understand why we have made those mistakes. Now we understand what we can do about it, and that's why we're here this morning, is to talk about that. You know, all of these people that are on your team, they were all trained the same. They're all managed the same. They're all compensated the same. And they all sell pretty much the same inventory, the same products. So what's going on? Why the big discrepancy between our top performers and our bottom performers? Well, quite simply, we know from science that they are not the same. That's the big issue. These people are distinct. They are different. And that difference means whether or not they fit into the job you've put them into. You know, what you don't know can hurt you, and it's hurting you now. I mean, imagine if your bottom 25% of your salespeople could sell as many cars as your top 25%, what that would mean to your business today. I mean, just think about that one change. Think about taking the bottom 25% and increasing their sales to match the top 25% and what that would mean to your month, to your year, to your personal paycheck. It's enormous. Here's what we know. We know these people were born differently. We know they were raised differently. We know they're motivated by different things, driven by different things. We know that most of these differences are not observable. Now, that's the scary thing, because we tried to observe them in the interview. We tried to figure out what was going on, what would make them click in the interview. And yet, science has told us that most of the differences that matter are not easily observable, even to those of us who've been hiring for many years. It's just not there for us to see. So don't kick yourself over it. I've stopped kicking myself over it. Now I understand what's going on. What we do know is that behavioral assessments, a class of survey, some call them tests, we call them surveys because there's no right or wrong to them, they can see through the sameness. They can identify winners, and they can improve your hiring accuracy. And they do it almost like magic, but it's not magic. It's science. You know, Virtually every brand is using this today. Not all dealers clearly are, or we wouldn't be here this morning. But we have found that this has been successful across the line. As a matter of fact, the largest chains of dealerships in the country, names that you would know instantly, but I can't mention here, are using this tool, the predictive index, this behavioral assessment, to make sure that the people they're putting on their team are the right people over and over and over again. Not differentiating based on resume or interview as much as, is this person a good fit? Well, how do we know? How do we know who fits? Well, again, we get back to the science. We have tools that tell us what to use. We actually use a tool called the Pro, which helps us identify those behavioral characteristics that are perfect or ideal or best suited for any given position. And then we compare it with the predictive index, which is a profile of the individual. So imagine if for every position you have, you had a magic formula, a way of identifying something objective that you could compare that person to that would tell you whether they are a good fit for that job or not. Now here's the truth. We can show you how to do it before you even interview them. Now I'm not saying interviews aren't important. What I'm telling you is that before you interview someone, you're looking at their resume, and that resume's not telling you much. We can add to that game something so important that it'll tell you which people to interview first, which ones to put at the top of the pile, help you triage that list of people so you get the right ones. Well, here's what we know. We know that really good salespeople don't last long on the unemployment line. They're going to find some place to work. So we need to identify them quickly, and we need to get them on board. We use a lot of science to do this. What you're looking at right now is an analysis that we did for a dealer. In this particular case, you don't need to know how to read this except to know that the blue represents the average of the people, the salespeople that are employed by this particular chain of dealerships. The red represents what the target profile would be. In other words, what we'd like to see. And notice that there's a gap between the red and the blue. That gap is costing this dealership money. That gap is costing them sales month after month after month. We know statistically that if they were hiring people who looked more like that red curve than the ones that look like the blue curve, their sales would go up dramatically. That goes back to what I said before. What's wrong with the bottom 25% that doesn't make them look like the top 25%? This is it right here. We can see it in a nutshell when we look at this kind of an analysis, and we can show you, we can do this analysis for your dealership. We can show you where your current team is and how they compare with national averages and how they compare with what your particular goals are for your dealership. So we do the analysis to make sure that we understand where we are today and where we need to get to with each individual client. We've done our homework. We've done a lot of studies. In this particular study, we looked at 94 sales associates for a particular group of dealers. If you notice, on the left is the behavioral profile, the predictive index of the top performing 25%. And notice they were selling 17.2 units per month on average. On the right is the profile of the bottom 25%. And note they were selling 5.7 units per month. Well, that's a pretty big differential. And again, these people were hired by the same managers. They are paid the same way. They go to the same sales meetings. They went through the same training. And yet, look at the enormous spread between the top performers and the bottom performers. We see this analysis time after time after time. And the reason is simple. Goes back to what I said a few minutes ago. The differences between these two sets of people are not easily observable unless you have some kind of a scientific tool to look at them in a unique way. And that's what predictive index does. That's what behavioral assessment does. It helps you figure out which person walking in the door or even just applying for the job is already in that category. What's interesting about this is innate. This is pretty much born in. Science tells us that this behavioral style was part of them pretty much from birth. Now we can only measure it from about age 14 when someone has the skills to be able to communicate with us at that level. But we know that it's unlikely to change throughout their lifetime. We know that it is something that drives pretty much everything they do in life, especially how they perform at work. And so it's so critical to have this base understanding of a person, to have this picture. And as you can tell, the one on the left looks significantly different than the one on the right. You don't have to be a rocket scientist, and I used to be an engineer on the Patriot missile years ago, so I could play there if I had to. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the one on the left is a different pattern. And if you were trying to match them, you'd know one of these things does not look like the other. You'd also find out if you put them on your team, there would be a significant difference in performance. And that's really what we're talking about. You know, what we do, the process we go through, is to analyze what's going to work for your dealership. Now, there are people on the line this morning who have dealerships that are more traditional, and there are some of you who have dealerships that are much more unique. Some of you are using fixed price, non-negotiating. You will have a slightly different pattern. You will have a slightly different need than the traditional negotiating dealerships, and that's fine. Our job is not to tell you what you need to have. Our job is to figure out what you need to have and then help you get more of it. We're not trying to tell you how to run the dealership. We're, in fact, trying to tell you how to get the right kind of people that match the way you want to run the dealership. So if you look at the process, we start with that pro. That pro gets your input. It tells us what you're trying to do with your dealership, what you're trying to achieve with each position. The analytics tell us what you have today and how it differs from what you are looking for. So that analysis tells us how big the gap is between your current population of people and what you would really like to have. The studies are studies we've done for the last 60 years that we've been doing this. And so we have a lot of understanding of what works in various positions, especially in the auto industry. And so we can tell you what's been working for other dealerships and why. So if the patterns that you're looking for don't match those trends, we'll be able to give you advice on other things that have been working. We take all this information, your input from the pro, the analysis we do from the analytics, the studies we've been doing for 60 years, and we put that all together to give you a target pattern for that particular position. And that's what you use as your objective counterpoise, your objective basis for evaluating applicants. And I mean applicants. We're evaluating them before the interview. Now, there's a formula for virtually every position. And if you look at your org chart, you've got a variety of different needs in the organization, from sales, everything from new car sales to internet sales, and those are two different positions. You know that, and we know that they're two different personality types or behavior styles. Office managers and what they're looking for. We get a lot of calls for that. One of the toughest positions to fill are some of the support people in the office. Service managers and service writers and techs and lot managers. Service writers particularly, a big issue. I didn't put it up here, but F&I, one of the areas that is underserved in most dealerships. F&I can be and should be a large profit area for you, but it's not going to be unless you have the right person in there, and we've done the analysis to show that for dealership after dealership. Your graph should look something like this. In fact, you should have a behavioral pattern for each position that you want to fill. You should have an organizational chart that is defined by behavioral needs. And when you do, it makes it very easy to build a dealership. Here's the other thing it makes it easy to do. It makes it easy to open another dealership because now you have the formula for success all the way through. You know how to build the building. You know how to put the equipment in. You know how to train. What you don't have is that formula that makes sure that the people you're going to hire are the right ones, and you don't have to churn through person after person after person to get there. Now, the traditional process that most of us have used for years in hiring looks like this. You look at your applicants, you use a resume, and then interview them. Now, what we want to show is that there's a little change. Look at the applicants and do the PI and the resume early in the process, and not only will you interview fewer people, but you'll interview them more effectively because you'll be picking the ones that are a good match for you, and then you'll understand how they fit or don't fit the particular target you're looking for. That means that the questions you're going to ask in the interview are going to be more accurate, they're going to be more valuable, more insightful to you as an interviewer. So your whole process gets speeded up as you move forward with this. You know that to run your business well, you need a variety of things. You need to select the right people. You need to retain them, to keep those good people you have, and you need to manage them more effectively than you are today. If you do all three, select, retain, and manage, you will drive your metrics, whatever those metrics are, whether you're looking at CSI, whether you're looking at sales, whether you're looking at number of labor hours booked by service writers. All of those metrics are based on those three things. So what we're talking about gives you insight into all three. You'll be able to select more accurately. You'll be able to hold on to them because you'll know what drives them, and they'll be a better fit for the job. And you'll be able to manage them more effectively because you will understand them. You know, right now you find that some of the people are a good fit and they work well, and some of the people just aren't. Imagine if you had a dealership full of people who fit. A dealership full of people who performed the way you want them to perform. You know, our goal in working with any dealership is very, very simple. No matter whether we're looking at sales or whether we're looking at service, whether we're looking at F&I, whether we're looking at cashiers, it's to take the bottom 25%, well, actually take all people and move them to top performers. Now, this can't happen overnight. You're not going to fire all the people you have and hire all new ones. But what you are going to do immediately is start making sure that the people that you bring in fit that top performer profile. And you're going to be able to look at those people that don't fit, that are already in your employ, and with the insight gained by Predictive Index, you will be able to manage them more effectively. You may decide to move some of them around because maybe they're in the wrong spot. Maybe they're on the wrong ladder, and maybe we need to move them into another spot where they'd be more effective in our organization. If you look at what dealers are saying, Earnhardt, one of our large chains of dealerships out in the Midwest, in Arizona, says, you know, PI provides us the tools we need to match the right person to the position. That's just what I've been talking about. And when we do that, we keep those people longer and we treat our customers better. That's the goal. Now, when you have happier customers, you are selling more and making more. That's the game. If we can help you do that, we've won and you've won. Bill Marsh Motors says, you know, our customer service ratings jumped 15%, and over 50% of our customers returned to buy another vehicle from us. That was a big jump for them. They really had a problem with retaining customers. And when they started putting the right people in the right role, it was kind of interesting. Not only did they find that they returned to the service department, but they returned to the sales department. And so they're now making more money at the front of the house and the back. And when we look at against industry norms, this is Keys Motors, says against industry norms, Keys has been able to achieve an overall retention rate of 50% a year by putting the right person in the right slot. I will tell you that it's not unusual at all for us to help a dealership cut turnover in half. Now imagine, the people that stay longer are there long enough to get good at what they do. The people that stay longer are there long enough to really learn the business and become part of your family, become part of your organization long term. Some of them start to move up into management roles over time. But they get to the point where they can really perform. They really understand. This is a business where you need to spend the time to get good. And if you're having high turnover, then you've got too few people that are spending the time to get good. So we reduce that turnover quite simply by making sure we're putting the right people in the right role. Why do people leave the industry? Well, salespeople leave the industry because they're not making any money. They leave the industry because they aren't the right kind of person to do what it takes to be successful. When you make that change, when you start putting people in those roles who are a good fit for those positions, all of a sudden you discover they perform better, they make more money, that makes them happier, that makes you happier, and oddly enough, it makes the client happier. In the end, everything works better for everyone. So what we're basically saying is we have a tool that can help you do everything from better selection through better management using the predictive index. And we'd love to be able to do the analytics that we talked about earlier for you. If you're interested, contact us, please. My name's Steve Waterhouse. You can contact me at 904-269-2299, extension 102, or email me at steve@predictiveresults.com. And let me tell you what we'll do for you. We will offer you an opportunity to try the predictive index so you can see what it looks like on you. We'll show you the studies that I mentioned earlier. We'll actually give you the full case studies from those particular dealerships so you can see for yourself exactly what they said, why they said it, who said it. You'll have the information you need to be able to make a good decision. We want new clients who are a good fit for us, and we want to be a good fit for you, just like we want to help you hire people who are a good fit for your organization. Most of you would probably like to email your questions, so please do to steve@predictiveresults.com, and we look forward to sharing with you what the predictive index can do for you. Thank you so much.